Why Jesus' sacrifice does not make sense. In Christianity, Jesus died on the cross as a sacrifice for the sins of the whole world. However, this sacrifice is illogical for several reasons which I will explain in this video. Penal substitution. Penal substitution is the most common theory of atonement used to explain Jesus' sacrifice. This theory explains that all humans are guilty before God due to sin and everyone deserves God's punishment and wrath, so Jesus allowed himself to be punished and have the wrath of the Father poured out on him so that the punishment we deserve is paid in Jesus' death so we can be allowed to be forgiven and enter heaven as our sins have already been punished on Jesus. Innocent man condemned. If Jesus is a perfect sinless person, this means that in the atonement, God punished an innocent man, which is unjust. Break in the Trinity. In the atonement, God the Father punishes God the Son. This means the Father's will condemns the Son's will. However, it is traditionally believed there is only one divine will shared by all three persons of the Trinity, so it would be impossible for one divine person to condemn another. Guilty are not punished. If sinners are forgiven, then the guilty did not truly receive the justice they deserve. Only the human nature died. As only Jesus' human body died and his divine nature was not killed, this means only a finite suffering was achieved, so his sacrifice is not infinite and insufficient to pay for the sins of the whole world. God's infinite mercy. If God is infinite in mercy, then he should be able to forgive humanity's sins without any punishment on Jesus at all. Application to the whole of humanity. If God is able to apply the sacrifice of Jesus to whoever he wishes, even prophets in the Old Testament who were ignorant of Jesus, then it raises the question of why God could not apply the sacrifice of Jesus to everyone, even those who never hear the gospel. If Jesus' sacrifice can pay for genocide, then it seems reasonable that it could pay for non-belief, and yet according to Christianity, all non-believers will go to hell. Lack of infinite duration of punishment. If the true penalty for sin is eternal punishment in hell, then for Jesus to truly pay for our sin, he would need to be punished for eternity instead of a few hours on the cross. God's predestination. If God is omniscient and knew the future, then God was aware he would sacrifice Jesus before he even created the world, so he created humanity fully knowing that we would sin, which would lead to Jesus' death. If God was all-powerful, then he could have created a world where Jesus' sacrifice was not needed, but he didn't, and so the death of Jesus is the fault of God. Evil still exists. Even with Jesus' sacrifice, evil still exists and always will continue to exist, meaning that the problems in the world will never be solved. Other sacrifices forgive sins. Throughout the Old Testament, animal sacrifices are shown to forgive sins, which undermines the idea that Jesus alone atones for humanity's sin. Thanks for watching. I will make my next video about how the Trinity doesn't make sense as soon as I can.